What's up, everybody? It's Alex. I'm back from my brief sabbatical because the NBA is back, and I am ready to get things going with my guys, Dr. Justin Quinn and Daniel Donabedian. It's Havlicek Stole the Pod. We've got a wild episode for y'all today. A lot has happened, and we're going to talk about the Sixers, the Celtics, and a whole bunch more around the league and elsewhere. And to do that, we're bringing in Max Lederman. Max, how are you doing?
Doing great, guys. Doing great. I got to check my bet slips here. Hold on. I know we're good.
Daniel, what's going on with you, man?
Doing well. A little tired after last night's game, but it's good to have meaningful basketball back.
God, it sure is. I dear listener, I don't know if you detected it by my statement just now, but I find preseason basketball to be largely intolerable and really, really boring. Dr. Quinn, what do you think about the fact that we're back in the season, and how are you doing generally?
Like Daniel, I am tired, wondering how the hell I ever fit everything in my day during the regular season, normally, never mind the postseason. But, that's what ramping things up are for. So here we are.
We sure did ramp things up. We went from 0 to 60 really quick here in the NBA. I guess we have to start with the news, right? Let's run it back like it's 2007. We've got a crazy Republican president, and we've got a massive gambling scandal in the NBA. So let's get it. Obviously, we got to start off with this. Terry Rozier and Chauncey Billups, both former Celtics, both arrested, both appeared in court due to what is, I believe now is officially confirmed to be a linked, if not exactly the same, gambling scandal. For Chauncey Billups, it was rigged poker games, and for Terry Rozier, it was sports betting in overlapping but separate cases. Rozier, of course, missed a large chunk of games last year due to a mysterious foot injury, and the accusation is that he was, basically leaking in part of a group that was leaking information to bettors, and then they were in turn taking unders on Miami Heat games, things like that. And Chauncey Billups appears to have been involved, or at least accused of being involved in a very elaborate rigged poker game in which he acted as the kind of celebrity draw to bring in basically fishes who would then be cleaned out by said rigged poker games organizers, and presumably Billups would then get a cut. Terry Rozier was previously cleared by the NBA. He was not cleared by the FBI, and that is the source of the trouble here as well. He plans to fight his case. He has been released on bail, having posted his, I believe, $6 million bail earlier today. Adam Silver, having a tough day. He's called for some gambling regulation on Pat McAfee. He did so the day before this all broke. Interesting timing. Let's go around the horn. NBA gambling scandal, the worst since Tim Donaghy, almost certainly. Max, you get first crack. What's going on here?
Yep.
How are we feeling, and how much worse do we think this is going to get?
I'm not sure. It's pretty bad, but Terry feels like just kind of the same thing that we already knew. Like, didn't we already know like last year that he was involved in something? Then he got cleared by the NBA, but like there was still an investigation. So the Terry one doesn't feel like adding to the badness. It was kind of already bad. It was just another, Michael Porter Jr.'s brother. It's not great, but the Chauncey one that's a head coach of a team. There's 30 in the world, and one of them is linked to the mob in a really bad scandal. And I've met Chauncey once, and he was just fantastic, super nice. He actually, ironically, it was right after the hospital Celtics season where Terry went off in the playoffs, and I was with Abby Chin at Big Three practice, and he came over and was talking. He couldn't have been nicer, and he said, he thought the Celtics should trade Kyrie because he didn't think he was much of a leader, and that Terry could lead the way for them. And it's just really ironic that those two were connected, and he was right, at least as far as trading Kyrie. They should have done it, but man, it's not great, but also it's not an official. So I think Tim Donaghy's definitely worse, like that guy's controlling a lot. And, we get the two-minute reports now because I feel like that's definitely related to that. We're trying to show you that the refs are on the up and up, and I don't know. It's not great.
Daniel, what do you think? How are we feeling in the wake of all of this dropping? And what do we think about the possibility of more to come, which has been rumored by a lot of people?
Yeah, and I've seen some of that stuff with Damon Jones, who used to play with LeBron. Like, allegedly, he knew about LeBron's health status for certain games and might have been leaking that to different bettors. Obviously, I don't know if LeBron was aware of that, but this is just so messy. And you were kind of alluding to it earlier before the episode, Alex. Like, what a shame for the NBA to have a great start to the season. Like, we get that double OT game between the reigning champion Thunder and the Rockets. Like, great game. And then we get some more exciting games yesterday, like Victor Wembanyama going off against the Mavs, Cooper Flagg's debut. Like, I could go on. There was a lot happening yesterday. And instead of getting a chance to kind of focus on that and basketball being back on NBC, which I thought was pretty cool to see, we get this giant fiasco, and now we're talking about like Terry Rozier again, just the head coach of a team, like being involved in this with the mafia. Like, this is some stuff out of Sopranos, like the Sopranos. This is so bad. And Adam Silver's just been having a brutal year, honestly, with this and the whole aspiration scandal. But just tough that this takes away from what we saw in the first 2 days of the season.
JQ, any additional thoughts to add here? Obviously, you've been around for a number of different scandals in NBA history. Where does this one rank up?
Oh, so I'm old, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Seriously though.
That's up.
Yeah, kind of. Seriously, where there's smoke, there's fire. There were questions of character regarding both of these former Celtics. I won't get into the details because they're not pertinent to this particular case. But Max was kind of hinting at this, I think. There's only 30 head coaching jobs. There's only about 500 NBA jobs. The NBA has a really big problem on its hands because look around, just about everything you see is powered in at least part by sports betting, right? It's ubiquitous. So the chances that this is the end of these kinds of scandals is low. And considering how integrated sports betting has become to the NBA atmosphere, ecosphere, whatever you want to call it, it's going to be really hard figuring out exactly how this is all going to get sorted. And the fact that, as Daniel was talking about, it's happening at another moment of league credibility, this is going to be something that could snowball into worse things regarding the future viability of the NBA if they don't get a handle on it.
Yeah, and the fact that not only is it, now you're making a direct connection between the fact that, and you saw ESPN's coverage of it today. They literally cut the ESPN Bet Sports ticker off during the segment where they were covering this. Like, you do see all of these different pieces moving and this kind of broader culture of, just widely accepted sports gambling, both from your phone and whatever, which, we don't have time to get into. That is, all interwoven into all of this. But the key thing that I keep kind of coming back to, at least for me, is that it sounds like this is the tip of the iceberg with regard to this specific set of scandals. The fact that, like, even though Billups was involved in this card game, and even though Rozier was involved in the separate kind of point shaving operation. If you look at the court documents related to the Rozier case, there's a clear implication that Chauncey Billups is also involved in that. There is an obvious connection here. And there are other names that have been rumored around this. Obviously, there's been a little bit of buzz about Gilbert Arenas. There's been a little bit of buzz last year about Malik Beasley. But the sense I get is that this is a potentially, this story is potentially going to get a lot worse. And we're going to have to be keeping tabs on it throughout the year. And the implications for professional basketball and really professional sports generally could be quite severe. So I think, Max, to your point, you're right that Donaghy is the worst scandal for now. But I wouldn't necessarily say that that's always going to be the case. We will see. In far less interesting scandals, wouldn't even really rise to the level of a scandal, but the New York Knicks reportedly tried to poach Joe Mazzulla to be their head coach this past offseason. Joe Mazzulla subsequently extended with Boston for 6 years and said in an interview recently that there's no other team that he wants to coach. However, a former New York Knicks coach and Tom Thibodeau recently visited Celtics practice and showed Jaylen Brown, among other things, how he was defended by the New York Knicks, who coincidentally Boston will be playing tomorrow night. What do we make of New York's attempt to poach Joe Maz and the subsequent rebuffing? Seems like Mike Brown's going to be doing okay over there, no, Max?
Yeah, I think it just shows you how stupid Dolan is as an owner. Like he went for every he fired Tibbs before having a succession plan, and then was like, I'll just go get a good coach that's employed by another team. It'll be easy. And it's like, no, it's really hard actually. You have to trade draft picks for that, and they have to be willing. So he's just an idiot, didn't have a plan. But I also think Mike Brown's like a perfect coach for that team. I think they needed a coach like Mike Brown, and they'll definitely get the Mike Brown honeymoon. He seems to really be good to begin his tenure with teams, and he's got a lot of experience. And look, I think we're going to learn what kind of coach Joe is this year. He had a ton of talent, but also he got a ton out of that talent. He put the pieces that were, in front of him in the right position to win a championship. And he's also from Rhode Island and grew up a Celtics fan. So I don't know why, they thought it would be, we'll just get him to come to the Knicks, the team that, eliminated him in the playoffs. Do they not know how competitive he is? That seems crazy, like absolutely insane.
JQ, any additional thoughts to add on the potential but failed poaching of Joe Mazzulla?
Not so much that, but I will be watching ahead of that Knicks game just how healthy they are. Someone mentioned on a recent podcast, I forget who, the concept of Tibbs miles to connect it to Tibbs. He plays his guys a lot. He rarely plays his bench. And the Knicks are starting their season without their two best big men and Josh Hart. So if the Celtics are going to steal one game against the Knicks, it might be on Friday.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting game. Daniel, do you have any thoughts about that matchup? And is there any extra juice now in that matchup, given this story or anything else?
Maybe if Tatum was playing, I'd say there's some extra juice. I still think it's going to be loud. Like it's New York versus Boston. It's MSG. Like there's going to be stars are out, whatever. But maybe not as much if Tatum was playing too. I don't think the whole Tibbs aspect adds too much to it. Like, it was interesting to see that he was at least talking to the Celtics about some of the defensive schemes they use against Jaylen Brown and Tatum. And even though, literally the next day in practice, they're kind of trying to tell us that Tibbs being there was more observational, I feel like Jaylen Brown let the cat out of the bag a little on that one. But, it should still be an interesting game. And I just want to reiterate what Max said. Like, did the Knicks not do any of their homework on Joe? Like, this man is crazy about New England and Boston. Did they just not pay attention to that and think they could, poach him? I know they called about, almost every coach in the NBA, but that's crazy to me.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The one thing that is true is that we know to be true is that the Knicks called basically every team asking if they could poach their head coach. It seemed like it was a scattershot approach at best, and of course Joe Mazzulla was caught up in that. Yeah, this is a nothing story to me. It's like, he didn't go to the Knicks, and that's really about it. Other stories that we've kind of been buzzing about. Jason Tatum and Tyrese Halliburton, according to DJ Siddiqui and Chris Mannix, respectively, both talked a little bit about their injuries and how they support each other. They've been in communication over the offseason. Sounds like there is an Achilles tear group chat between them and Dame and DeJounte Murray. So hopefully that's working all in their favor, and we'll see. Jason Tatum looked pretty good in his cream suit last night, but I don't think we're going to be seeing him on the basketball court anytime soon. The new season of Starting Five is out, featuring, among other things, Jaylen Brown. I have not watched any of it yet, outside from some additional clips out on various social medias. Have any of y'all watched any of it, and do you have any takes to drop?
I watched a bit. You go first.
No, I was just gonna say I haven't watched. I want to, but I don't know if you guys have paid attention. We had 7 days of Jaylen Brown on NBC Sports Boston. A couple of my colleagues worked like all summer on setting this whole thing up with Jaylen, and Jaylen loved it. So, and he came in and did an interview with Michael Holley over the weekend that we aired a little bit of. So there's a ton of Jaylen out there, and I love it. This is Jaylen's time, and he's getting a day. He's getting a day in the city. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I will just say that the documentary that you guys at NBC made is far more interesting than the one episode I have seen so far. I have not been able to convince my wife to watch a second episode of it. And that's just because I think to most people, Kevin Durant is kind of boring. Like, if you really, really, really obsess about basketball the way we do, he's got some appeal to him, particularly the way he interacts with people. In a very diplomatic, not diplomatic, in a very direct way, I think is the way I'm looking for to describe it. But I don't know, man. Like, it's like Jaylen's parts of the series are definitely worth watching, but you really have to be into the NBA, I think, to really enjoy that show. Because my wife was like watching her phone like 5 minutes in. So,
but don't we already kind of know Jaylen? Like, I feel like maybe for other NBA fans it would be more insightful for Jaylen. But we've watched him grow up, and I can't imagine him saying anything that we wouldn't have already heard, right?
No.
I mean, I don't know, I haven't seen it. I will watch it though.
No, it was far from revelatory.
Yeah, I was going to say something similar because I'm on episode 7, like I'm almost at the end. I've admittedly skipped around a bit, mostly focusing on the Jaylen Brown stuff. But if you follow the NBA like even a decent amount, I don't think you're going to see too many new things, especially like if you're a Celtics fan watching Jaylen Brown. Most of this stuff, like it's nothing crazy. I will say I've enjoyed some of the James Harden parts more than I thought. And I know the end with SGA and Halliburton is going to be cool to see, but also heartbreaking. They showed a bit of it in the first episode, and that was hard to watch. Like him with his now his fiance, like consoling him after his injury. Literally, Game 7 still going on. I was like, ooh, it's just hard to see as a sports fan. But as far as the Celtics side of things, nothing crazy. It's mostly Jaylen Brown and his family.
Kevin Durant, you could never be boring to me, King. You're the most interesting guy in all of basketball.
I'm just saying to non-basketball heads.
But, hold on, I want to say something. When he was in the Olympic documentary that came out last summer and he cried about basketball, I've never related to a person more than that moment there. I get that. It's weird for me too, because I'm not an elite basketball player at any stretch, but I love basketball. I love it. Like, truly, it's like I love my family more, and that's all I'll say. That's all I'm saying. It's
that's
weird.
Good of you.
It doesn't make sense, but like I connected with him on that. And I loved when he cried when he won the MVP as well. I love it when these warriors, show their emotion. I love that. Like when Embiid cried after they lost to Kawhi in 2019, when Chris Bosh was crying and on the ground when they lost in the finals. In 2011. So I just, I know Durant can rub people the wrong way, but he is authentic.
He sure is. Another guy who is also authentic is Jaylen Brown. And tomorrow, Jaylen Brown's birthday, has also been declared Jaylen Brown Day in the city of Boston by Mayor Michelle Wu. Daniel, you have a story about Jaylen Brown and his relationship with Boston as well as the fans. Let's get a quick plug in. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, it was mostly just about the fact that he's really been a lot more public lately. I mean, like we were saying with Starting Five, he's literally on a Netflix documentary. And the NBC Sports Boston one too. He's just been showing himself more to the public, whether it's like the TV appearances or streaming. And I think he's definitely gotten more comfortable in Boston and just more comfortable dressing the media because, like I said in the story, he can kind of control the narrative surrounding him now. Like, he has enough of a standing in Boston. He's even carved out like a bit of a legacy with his finals MVP trophy. And he just does a lot in the community too. So I think he's like earned the right to kind of control the narrative. And then just in today's NBA, like so many players have podcasts or different ways to interact with the public where they can kind of break news first sometimes. Like whenever LeBron does retire, I'm sure he could do that like on his own and announce that before maybe some of the big hitters, some of the big insiders. It's just the kind of how the game has changed where some of the players now are kind of breaking the stories.
Can I jump in
Unfortunately,
real quick?
yeah, do it.
I'm sorry. I was just going to ask Daniel, do you think Jalen's putting himself out there a little bit more? And I'm just speculating. Do you think it's about, when he didn't get on the Olympic team last summer and, the squabble with Nike and, he's doing his own sneakers, but it still makes me wonder, like when I think it was his rookie or his second year when he was with Adidas, he was in a commercial, like one of like the New Balance type where they have like a bunch of athletes in it. He just had like a little, it wasn't his own commercial, but like that was, I think maybe the last commercial I remember Jaylen Brown ever being in on like a national platform or even really locally. Like, why isn't he in stuff? That seems very suspicious. Is it just that he doesn't want to be, and maybe now he's more open to that, or is there is he on some sort of blacklist?
I mean, I know Stephen A kind of referenced it a little. I think it was last year where he said that like a lot of NBA executives, like Jaylen Brown, rubs them the wrong way. And then he sat down with Stephen A. actually at the Auerbach Center to talk to him about that. But he's just definitely like he does things his own way. Like he went to Cal Berkeley. He could have gone to Kentucky, UConn for Justin. Like he could have gone to a blue blood program, and he went to Cal. And he's been about his activism too, which sometimes doesn't go hand in hand with some big brands out there like Nike. But I think he just likes to control his own narrative and like be in charge of that. And to do that, sometimes you got to do things your own way, whether it's making your own shoe brand and not signing with Nike, even though they're offering you like insane amounts of money, and just kind of doing what you believe in. I think he's always been a big believer in that and just doing things his own way.
Yeah, he's always been an iconoclast, and he's been someone who has always made decisions his own way. That's definitely true. Speaking of guys who made decisions their own way, Celtic rookie Hugo Gonzalez apparently turned down an opportunity to be drafted and stashed before Boston took him. Justin, you want to tell us a little more about this? I haven't heard anything about this at all, but what's going on here?
So part of the reason I think that this didn't quite get the coverage that it might have had it been on a podcast that was in English, es porque era un podcast en español. And if you don't speak Spanish, you wouldn't have a clue about what was being said. In this case, the discussion touched on the draft process, where he had a couple of interviews with teams that wanted him to remain overseas for a season. And the Celtics were the first team that would take him in the first round and have him come over. So for that reason, he ended up on the Celtics. So sliding doors moment. Not too much else, though.
Go figure. Interesting. All right. So, guys, we're going to close out the news with this. I just have a question that's been on my mind all day. Why do we bother covering basketball? Why do we care about this sport when it's clear that an alien freak can simply descend onto the league from France and take over everything? Does any of this even matter in light of Victor Wembanyama's truly astonishing 2025-2026 season debut last night? I mean, I don't know. We talked about it a little bit before the pod. Max, I don't know if you watched that game. I watched until he checked out. Holy smokes. Just a terrifying performance. What do we got, Max?
Yeah, so I recorded it because I wanted to be able to watch it. It overlapped a little bit with our post-game show last night. I tried to watch a little bit last night before bed, but it was too late. I had to be intelligent and go to sleep. But I put it on this morning while my 9-year-old was getting ready. And I kept yelling, and she kept coming running, and she's brushing her teeth like, what? I'm like, rewinding. Look at this. Unbelievable. Like, my wife was trying to talk to me about something after I dropped my daughter off from school. You know, I'm chatting with my wife, you know, or she's trying to talk to me while I'm watching this, and I just interrupt her like, oh my God. He did this crazy reverse baseline dunk from so far away. And I was mentioning earlier before we started recording, just like, he seems like such a good person too, like a great outlook on life. He understands that he's different and that he'll never live a normal life, and he doesn't care, and he doesn't try to be anything other than who he is. I love him going to China with the Shaolin monks over the summer, and just really, he just seems like a good human being, great perspective, and he's just incredibly good at basketball. We are really lucky.
Man, Daniel,
Alex?
I don't know if you, what's up?
I think I do have an answer for you, but Daniel,
go.
Okay. The answer, I don't want it to be this answer, but I think the reason why we cover basketball is VJ Edgecombe.
Oh, man. Yeah. We do have to talk about VJ Edgecombe. I just want to stick on Wembanyama for one more second, and then we'll jump into that. But clearly, training with the Shaolin monks is an effective tactic for Victor Wembanyama. It's clearly worked out well. That guy made Anthony Davis, who everyone agrees when he is healthy is a legitimate top 10 defensive player in the NBA right now and one of the best defenders of all time. And he made Anthony Davis look like a child. Like, I can't describe how shocking it was to see him. Like, he had 4 fouls in the first half. He just looked completely flustered. And every time that the Mavs tried to do anything, it just seemed like Wembanyama was there and had an answer. And obviously the reverse pump dunk and one was incredible. But the sequence that jumped out to me was when he swatted Derek Lively into what should have been the 5th row, but the ball stayed in play. Just like a shocking block, and then got the ball back, walked down, I don't know who was, I think it was Lively again, walked down Derek Lively on the other end, and then hit a step back cross dribble, pull up triple in his face, and got the foul and got the 4-point play. Like, we've just never seen anybody do anything like that. It really is Giannis and Kevin Durant merged into one person, but also 7-7. And that somehow doesn't feel hyperbolic. I don't know how to process that. So we'll see. There are some other teams that we need to talk about, and this is nominally a podcast about the Boston Celtics. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a little break, and then we're going to get into a very fun segment, the one that we named the podcast after. Max, the Steal, you get to take over the pod and make it whatever you want it to be. Your choice, your call. What do you want to talk about as we get into the second half of the pod?
You want me to tell you, or do you want me to wait until we get back? It was a tease?
Just, no, take it. Take the ball and run, because I'm realizing that I think I'm operating. I'm a little rusty. I'm coming off the bench after a month off, so we're not actually taking a break. And
Hamstrings.
Okay.
All right.
Tightness.
I got a rant. It's not about basketball. It's about capitalism. It's about big companies ruining what I love, sport. And it's about Apple TV getting the rights to F1. And boy, that really pisses me off. I mean, I just want to be able to watch my races, my practice sessions, my qualifications, my sprint races easily on my phone, on my app, and stream it to my TV. And I have the ESPN app. I pay for it. It's a bundle with Disney and Hulu. I have 1,000 different things. I don't have Apple TV yet, and I don't want to get it. Now I'm going to have to. They ruined MLS. I used to be a Revs fan. The only Revs games I've seen since they went to Apple TV are the 2 games I've gone to. That's it. My kids don't consume Revs. They don't consume MLS because it's not accessible. And I will get Apple TV. It really won't impact my life, but for the growth of the sport in this country, what a terrible decision. You got billions of dollars or $180 million, whatever it is. Great. Awesome. I hope that quick hit, feels great. In a couple of years, you're going to regret this decision, just like MLS, I'm sure, regrets it. Although they did get messy, so maybe they don't. But, man, it sucks.
Yeah, I empathize with you as somebody who now has to watch the NBA on 3 or 4 different streaming platforms. Guys, we gotta do better.
If only there was one where they were all combined and it was like came with a box and you plugged it into your TV.
God,
I remember that.
I also work for a company that's owned by a cable company, so biased.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, we appreciate the steal. That's a good one. Anytime that we can critique streaming services, I'm all for it. And I think we're all for it as well. So, yeah, as I said, nominally a Celtics podcast, and the Celtics played the Sixers, who Max is quite familiar with. Let's get down to it. Last night, the Boston Celtics season debut ends in a loss, heartbreaker, super close, 117-116. Is your final score of game 1 of the 2025-26 season for the Boston Celtics. Couple of things happened. Derek White looked pretty good after a dicey start. Peyton Pritchard really struggled from 3, but did Peyton Pritchard things to stay in the game until the final shot when he got 2 opportunities to make the game winner and missed both of them. Jaylen Brown, quieter early, but was very steady. I thought his playmaking looked quite solid for someone who's not usually thrust into that role. Neemias Queta started at center for the Boston Celtics and looked pretty solid, at least on the offensive end. He did have some foul trouble, which we're going to be monitoring. Other performances include Anthony Simons' debut as a Boston Celtic. He was pretty good, I thought, on D. He was decent as a microwave scorer as well. Had some good moments, had some dicey moments. Luka Garza made his debut briefly and got a concussion and then left shortly after that. Seems like he's going to be a dog, though. Xavier Tillman had a nice start, including some good D on Joel Embiid. He did, however, miss a brutal putback bunny, which you got to have those. Sam Hauser was pretty solid, except for some poor fouls late, including a late moving screen. Josh Minott struggled a little bit, but had some energy plays, which seems like what it's going to be for Josh Minott. Chris Boucher was in the game, and he played basketball. Baylor, Shireman, Ugo Gonzalez, and Jordan Walsh did not. That's the rundown on the Celtics. Let's go around the horn again. Max, what did you see from last night's team? Give us the good, the bad, and the ugly.
I thought Jaylen played pretty well. I would have loved to have seen him get a touch at the end there. Philly was trying to prevent that, so it was a little difficult. It just, can you imagine if Tatum were playing, him not touching the ball? That's tough, man. That's tough. This is supposed to be Jaylen's year. And I know, Pritchard owned up to it after the game. He said, he just thought he had a better angle, and the read was to go, he was supposed to go to the corner, but he's just like, I got to make that pass next time. So, he'll hopefully learn from it. And that's what this season's going to be about. Honestly, it's going to be, it was weird. Like it didn't really emotionally impact me one way or the other because, as a Sixers fan, I don't think they're good. I don't think they're going to win anything. It's terribly depressing to see how washed Joel Embiid looks, while also being incredibly exciting to see VJ Edgecombe and Tyrese Maxey play as well as they did. But, as emotionally invested in the Celtics as I am, I didn't care that they lost because I don't care about wins and losses this year. I want to see growth. I want to see pieces come together so that when Tatum is back and they can figure out how to, bolster up that front court for a title run next year. But, that was a little, the end was probably the ugly, but start of the second half was beautiful. It was just like last year, just a 16-0 run, just like nothing. And Derek White's incredible. Joe just absolutely savage, putting Ugo at the check-in line and then pulling him. I was like, oh my God, I want to see Ugo play. And then you just tease me like that. So that was not great, but maybe they'll play tomorrow.
JQ, good, the bad, and the ugly from Boston's loss to Philly last night.
Well, the good, I think, is we did see some growth in this game that, frankly, I don't think a lot of us really believed you were going to see, at least early in the season, with the likes of players like Nimish Queta. I was expecting him to be passable. I was not expecting him to score in double digits and flirt with a double-double. The fouls are an example of the bad. The bad is all of the inexperience on this team, and there's a lot of it, as Max kind of alluded to. This is going to be a bumpy season, and there's going to be a lot of games where they pull stuff out of their posteriors that really blows our minds, and there's going to be a lot of games like last night where you think they have it in the bag and they just fall apart at the end because they're really taking kind of two steps back while they try to look for those deeper rotation pieces, which again falls in the good. The ugly is that we have to watch it for a whole season, or at least most of one. I don't know what's going to happen towards the end of this season, but I do think that the healthiest mindset that we can have is this kind of like a growth mindset that Max is talking about, because that's what success is going to look like this season. The players that are going to stick and the opportunities that are going to open for other players elsewhere that maybe aren't ready to be on a championship team. But other than that, it's going to be a roller coaster. And if you try to ride it the whole season, you are going to have bad mental health. In a year, you probably don't need anything else in that capacity.
True.
Daniel, good, the bad, and the ugly. What do we got?
Yeah, the good, I would say, was some of the shot quality. Like, Derek White and Peyton Pritchard had some great looks from three. Sam Hauser, too. And they just didn't go in. Like, those are shots we're used to seeing them make, and they weren't falling yesterday. So I know they had like a crazy amount of potential assists compared to their actual assists. So I think that could change in the coming games. The bad, I will say some of the late game execution. Like Derek said after the game, we're trying to get the ball to Jalen, and he's getting defended well, kind of wrapped up by Quentin Grimes, and just can't happen. I mean, Peyton Pritchard taking the last shot, I don't hate that. He didn't have that great of a look, but I mean, inside around the paint, he's pretty good. Like, he backed down a few defenders earlier in the game and scored. So I don't hate that, but just stinks to see that in the first game of the season and not get it to Jaylen Brown, who was having a sneaky, like, great game. And then the ugly, like, 42 points in the final quarter. That's just that's not acceptable. I mean, we know they're going to struggle on defense. They lost Drew Holiday and Porzingis and just a lot of other guys like Cornette, Horford, just some of those guys they've relied on defense. And I mean, credit to VJ Edgecombe. Like, I would look away for 1 second and I missed like a huge dunk of his. Like, he was flying around. He even like embarrassed Derek White a bit. Like, I was like, wow, this is this dude's first game of his NBA career, and he's already going at like all defensive guys with ease. And the fact that like only Wilt Chamberlain has scored more in his debut, and like one other player from the 50s.
So
To do that is insane. I mean, he had more than LeBron in his debut. Like, that was pretty crazy to watch.
It's insane.
Yeah, no, we'll get into VJ in just a second. For me, I think the good, I thought that the vets, the guys who have been in this team for a while, they were pretty solid as expected for the most part. I was pleasantly surprised by Nimish Queta. And I know the fouls were not good, but he had, I thought, a pretty strong game. In general, I think I'm a little more optimistic about him than I think I was heading into this season. He's not totally lost on defense. The fouls are not great for sure, but it seems like, he's got a better sense of where he needs to be. And offensively, he's going to provide a lot of extra support for this team, particularly just the size is going to matter a lot. As far as the bad goes, I mean, holy smokes, this team is not good at getting important rebounds. And I know that the actual rebounding battle was fairly even, but it just seemed like from a timeliness standpoint, every time that the Celtics gave up an offensive rebound, it was guaranteed Philly points. And they just were so bad at securing the boards in situations where it really does matter as far as like the flow of the game. And so going to be keeping my eye on that one. That's a worrying trend for sure to start. And the ugly is that as bad as the rebounding was, the transition defense was even worse. Now, I know Tyrese Maxey is a burner. He's one of the absolute fastest guys in the league. I know that the personnel is different. You don't have Drew Holiday and Al Horford to clog up those lanes anymore. But the transition defense all night was just awful. And it seemed like every time that there was a leak out, it was Philly getting points, either Maxey driving or VJ Edgecombe, getting points off of cutting or open threes for Grimes. Like they just have to be better in transition if they want to win any games. And it's going to be up and down. This team is not the team of the last couple of years that could just buzzsaw through, these regular season games. That's not going to happen. But if you want to see a competitive basketball product, you really do have to clean up the transition defense. It was quite bad. Let's see. Speaking of rebounding, Joe Mazzulla was also not thrilled with the rebounding to the point that he was basically pulling guys as soon as they gave up an offensive rebound. What do we think of this approach broadly? Good idea, bad idea? Max, what do you think?
I don't like it. I think, I get it. Like, tough love is good. And, for younger guys, maybe, I know that worked for Jaylen Brown his rookie year. Brad used to just have a really short leash with him on defense. If he screwed something up, he pulled him out. And ultimately, that helped him. But this is a different year. This is a different situation. I think you need, like someone like Keita, his foul trouble. Like he's got to play. He's got to play. He's got to figure out how to play without fouling. And you can't do that on the bench. All these guys. If you give up an offensive rebound, ream them out at, timeout or something, or, in the locker room, but keep them out there because they have to learn, and you cannot learn when you're not playing. So that's my only, I thought it was funny in the preseason. Probably preseason sucks. I hate it, but I have to watch it, obviously. And so I think, one of the fun things was his little point. As soon as someone gave up a offensive rebound, Joe would point to the bench, bring someone in, take him out. He even did it to Jaylen once. So, that was cute in the preseason, but now, it's the regular season, and we need to see, these guys need minutes. I know winning, you got to try to win every night, but I don't think benching a player who you're expecting a lot out of is going to help you win, basically.
Yeah, I think that the idea that he has does make sense in a vacuum. But I mean, if you look at a player like Aaron Nesmith, for example, why is he making so much money with the Indiana Pacers and not playing for the Celtics? Because he could not get consistent playing time. And that in the season, in the roster that he was existing with the Celtics, that kind of was excusable. There really just wasn't any time to play him, and he was far too good for the G League. So why would you do that in a season where you actually do have the time to play these players?
Yeah, part of it, again, Joe is the king of tough love, so there might be some building habits by force going on. For what it's worth, we're griping a lot about the rebounding. Boston did win the rebounding battle 42-40, but again, it's more about the timing of the rebounds and the result of the missed rebounds and the missed offensive rebounds than anything. Obviously, you win the rebounding battle, that's great, but if you give up 5 back-breaking rebounds in crucial moments, even if you win it in the box score in the end, that's not going to work out super well. Often a solution that coaches go to when they're having rebounding issues is to play double bigs. Sometimes you'll see perhaps a Neemias Queta and a Josh Minot on the same court at the same time. So I'm seeing in their notes, double bigs, is it a good call or a bad call with this roster? I guess I would throw out there, the Celtics front court is so small to begin with. Can we really say that we're running double bigs per se? Max, I'm curious. What did you?
Double medium.
Yeah, if it's Garza and Keita, then I would consider that a double big. But that's pretty much it, because I think Boucher is more of a forward. I would love to see him play 5, but he's probably not strong enough, a rebounder. But I actually would have liked. I know you said Boucher. Where was he last night? I was, he's one of the guys I was kind of excited to see, and he played, but he didn't really have an impact. At least a memorable one for me from last night or from their first game. So. Tillman just feels like a slow wing to me who can't hit threes. So I don't really consider him much of a big either. So, and Minot, I would consider a wing also. So I don't know. I don't think it's great. It was great with like a Luke Cornett and an Al or a Porzingis, because Al and Porzingis are three. It's basically the two non-shooters that are not guards, which obviously if you're a guard and you can't shoot, you're not going to be around. But so yeah, I don't think it's really something that's happening, and I don't think it's a great idea either.
Daniel, what do you think about the possibility of a double big / double medium lineup with this team?
I mean, I guess it's okay. They got to do what they have to do. Just like the personnel on this roster, they kind of have to improvise. My worries is just like whenever Jaylen Brown and maybe Derek White aren't on the court, like it's scary hours to say the least. Like the lack of talent when that happens is pretty frightening, and I think we saw a little of it yesterday. Like obviously Joel Embiid isn't completely healthy, so I can't really count him. But Tyrese Maxey was just going by everybody, and even VJ Edgecombe. They look better than pretty much everybody on the court besides JB and Derek. I mean, Pritchard had a bad game, so I put him in there too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think one of those games, especially, I mean, maybe we'll see it tomorrow against the Knicks. Yeah, they have some injury questions, but they still got Brunson, and that's going to be challenging for this team to deal with. It's not like I don't know how to put it. It's not like the embarrassment of riches they had last year, where you can go to Drew, Porzingis, Al off the bench. It's definitely more difficult.
Yeah, sure would be nice to have a big who could space the floor and scale up and down in, small ball 5 lineups, or also playing double bigs and be a connecting playmaker and also defend on the perimeter and have a veteran beloved presence in the locker room. That would be really cool to have that player on your team. Anyway, the defense was okay for the most part, I think. All right. I'm not going to go with that as the notes. I don't think the defense was okay. I think it was fairly bad, actually, mostly due to the transition opportunities and the fact that the Sixers got 40% from deep, including a huge run, as Daniel alluded to, in the fourth quarter that was capped by a 7-1 3-point margin in Philly's favor. I mean, if you hit 7 threes and the other team hits 1 in a close game in the fourth quarter, that's kind of your ball game. That's basically it. So yeah, linked to that, Boston's 3-point shooting last night. I mean, they got a lot of open looks. They did not make a lot of their open looks. Sure would help to have a first team all NBA combo forward who can, hit a lot of open threes and generate space and,
So
play make.
let's push back on the whole defense thing, because for the Celtics we are used to, the defense was trash. It was terrible.
That's fair.
Right? But for the players that we saw, like, let's not pretend that Anthony Simons' defense was impactful, right? But the effort was there. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing. So when I put something on there, like on the rundown, that's what I'm talking about. And to be even more specific, like rebounding was not the problem, right? There were plenty of bigs on the court through large chunks of the game, getting those rebounds to the point where other aspects of the game, they were not, for example, boxing out properly, leaking. There were leakouts that were causing transition play. The transition defense was garbage. The problem really for the Celtics is defense on the perimeter, which is not going to get fixed anytime soon, right? And rim protection, which they do have 2 good rim protectors, but they hardly played one of them in Chris Boucher. And the other one, let's be honest, Derek White is probably the best rim protector on the team right now. Maybe Boucher is better. That sounds really weird to say, but that's like kind of where we're at. And so I don't know what else to say about what can be done to be better, other than like the 3-guard lineups that we saw where Simons and Pritchard and White were all on the floor at the same time. you do give up some rebounding on that. But like, I think we need to see some more closing groups that are constructed like that than worrying about necessarily rebounding in a game where we saw that, Joel Embiid was healthy. He was impactful, but like the assumption was that rebounding was going to be the problem, I think. And as we are going to see, I think a lot with other teams, the things we think are going to go wrong are not necessarily going to be the things that go wrong because there's so much inexperience on this team.
I think it was like what Alex said about the rebounding. The defense wasn't bad across the board, but when it mattered in like the fourth quarter, it was kind of tough. But it also just goes back to those open misses from three. Like defense, offense, they're connected. Joe Mazzulla says it all the time. When you're bricking open threes, it lets them get out in transition and they're going right by you. Like I think it was in the fourth quarter, Derek White had a terrible miss from three, and Philly like instantly brought it back for points. And it's tough when those shots aren't falling because it's kind of it just hurts you twice. But they still created some chaos on the defensive end, which Joe Mazzulla has really emphasized, with their pace and aggression on the ball. Like Josh Minot, Payne Pritchard, Derek White, they're getting their hands in there, like poking the ball loose, creating some chaos, which is what Joe wants to see. I mean, they had 7 steals, I think, to Philly's 3, which is a good sign. They won the turnover battle. But when it mattered the most in the fourth quarter, it suffered, and Philly was just on fire.
Yeah, I mean, it is a little simplistic sometimes to say that the game comes down to making threes in the fourth quarter, but in this case, it definitely pretty much did come down to making threes or missing threes in the fourth quarter. It was pretty tight. Big part of that, Boston had a 16-point run to start the second half. There were moments where this team looked pretty strong, but much like towards the end of last year, the variance ball can come back and bite you in a real way. They gave up a huge lead and ultimately were not able to recover in the fourth. There were a number of different plays that led to that. Sam Hauser, as we mentioned, biffed on a screen. Peyton Pritchard, had a couple of bad misses late. Xavier Tillman, of course, missed a bunny. But I think the big thing is kind of coming into this. I'm going to give my takes as far as like what kind of still needs to be adjusted, and then we'll go around the horn. And also we should talk a little bit about the 76ers as well. Actually, let's talk about the Sixers first, because holy smokes, VJ Edgecombe, man, heck of a debut. I know we alluded to it earlier, but that's about as good as it gets to go top 3 all-time in scoring in your first game. Max, you're a Philly guy. It's been rough sledding in terms of the Philly fan experience for a while now, but walk us through the emotions of watching VJ Edgecombe's debut like that.
So, it's funny because it is connected to the Celtics, just the whole operation here, because I came into the Celtics season with the mindset like I'm looking forward to like the no expectation season, or it reminded me, like I was hoping for something like the hospital Celtics year where like they just went on that run, but like it was all icing, because Kyrie was hurt and Gordon was hurt. So, whatever they got was what they got, and it was not a big deal, but it was magical. It was fun. There were memes. Celtics Twitter became a thing, and it just was like a magic moment in time. And then watching the Sixers last night, I'm like, oh no, that's the hospital Celtics. That's the team that, Embiid looks, it's my favorite player. I love him. He's washed. He really just looks like it's sad. It really is upsetting on that end. But then you see this young the hope, and like this thoroughbred just dunking and just being an outlier athlete on a floor in a game that's all outlier athletes is pretty insane. And Tyrese just being an absolute blur and playing with joy and a smile. It's just like, and then even VJ missing those free throws at the end there, and just everyone coming up to him kept bugging him like, are you okay? And he kept just straight face like, I'm good. Like he's fine. That is encouraging, and Jared McCain isn't even back yet. So it, from the Sixers standpoint, that's kind of the early Jays vibe, like this team is it's not about the veterans that are here that are the high paid stars. It's about these young, I know Maxi's already a star, but it's about these young kids and what you can build around them. And, for the Celtics, it's really just like Ugo's the only young guy that I have any sort of like hope for. And it's not like he could be a J, it's not, it'd be awesome if he is. I'm not ruling that out. But to me, it's just more like my thought is that he'll be like a star role player type, fit on a good team with Tatum and Jalen still there. But so that's where I was kind of at last night watching the Sixers, is like, now this is what I was expecting to feel for the Celtics, but no, this is the hope, the young, the running, the electricity. My Sixers WhatsApp chat was dormant all summer and then started percolating last night, and it's getting people back, to be excited about that team, which it's can you just imagine for a minute what it's like being a Sixers fan? Just like, it's dark most times.
VJ reminded me a lot of a young Jimmy Butler last night, and I think that's pretty high praise. It just in terms of the raw energy that he was bringing to these games. Another guy who had a really strong rookie campaign, did not have a debut game like VJ Edgecombe for sure, but it's just like the energy is really infectious with him, where when he starts hitting shots outside, if he can do that consistently with the level of speed and athleticism that he brings to the table, that's going to be a huge pick for Philly and will definitely offer them a bridge to the future. Last year, before the Mavericks drafted Cooper Flagg and before VJ Edgecombe became a Sixer, I posited the question of who has the more grim outlook between Dallas, Phoenix, and Philly. And now with VJ and with Maxey and with Grimes and, of course, with all this other, kind of young talent, it feels like Philly has a foundation to build off of. Now they have these two gigantic, massive contracts in Paul George and Joel Embiid. That
it almost doesn't matter anymore, right?
But it does feel like they're kind of turning the corner in terms of like trending towards being something in the next few years. I do want to talk about Joel Embiid because I think that's kind of the big thing with Philly and has been for these past few years. Is it Jover? Max, you seem to think it's Jover. Daniel, I'm curious. Do you think it's Jover? Are we just done with Joel Embiid as like a mover and shaker in the NBA?
I'm not going to say it's over. I mean, he's still on a minutes restriction, so I wasn't expecting anything crazy. But yeah, like Max said, he did not look good at all. I mean, just not that active, just bricking some open threes. I think hopefully he could maybe feel a little more like himself in the coming weeks, months, however long it takes. I guess Philly now has a more positive timeline because they got some young guys coming in right now. Maybe he can rest some more. It is a little disheartening because he's not that young anymore in terms of the NBA. But I'm not going to go as far to say it's over. But I will say I completely forgot about Paul George, except for the fact that he's sitting on the bench. Like he's just been kind of eclipsed. I mean, he's barely played in the past years, and when he did, he wasn't that great, except for some random games against the Celtics. I think he was good on Christmas. But anyways, like I feel like that Paul George era has just left my mind, and it's already some new blood in Philly, whether it's Edgecombe, McCain. I mean, Maxey's far better. I think the Paul George ship might have sailed a bit, but Embiid, I don't know. I'm not fully giving it up on it, just since he has so much talent. But I don't know if he'll get back to where he was though. But he could still be good, I think.
JQ, what do you think about the Joel Embiid performance from last night and future indication?
It's hard not to look at how he played last night, but more importantly, how he's been really since before the Olympics, and not come to a conclusion that, at least as a high-level star, that is over. He can probably stay. I mean, he's so big, even slimmed down, that he can still probably stick around in the league and contribute to winning. But he's hovering the way he's playing somewhere between like second and third big level of skill, which is, you don't want to see that on a guy who is probably a top 75 of all time player in terms of talent anyway, maybe not accomplishments.
MVP.
Yeah.
Come on.
I mean, yeah, but top 75, been a lot of MVPs.
Scoring champion, MVP.
I don't know.
His peak was best Sixer
Yeah.
ever. I mean,
Yeah.
he eclipsed Iverson in my book, at least. And I think, I'm over negative about him because, just what fans do. But I do think, that, if he could evolve into like 2020, 21 Brooke Lopez type, just be a real defensive, because he was so good at defense when he came into the league. And it wasn't just his athleticism. I mean, that was certainly part of it, but it's the instincts are just incredible.
Yep.
And it's a deterrent. And I know that the Jays used to struggle, Celtics almost always beat the Sixers, but I would notice, like, man, they really avoid attacking Embiid. They really, and sometimes that gets them in trouble because they'll be going to the basket and then just stop because he's there.
Mm.
So if he can get like more of a deterrent and just start spamming threes, I mean, his jumper is absolute butter from the elbow, and he can hit threes. And so if he can do that and continue to evolve as a passer, maybe last night was more just like him trying to just like, hey, let Tyrese cook. This is his team now. I'm on a minutes restriction. And if that's the case, that's fantastic, because that's what you want, for a guy who, you could see it going the wrong way if it's not his team anymore, like with LeBron. God, as long as he handles it maturely, it'll be okay, because I believe that I just want him to be a Sixer forever. I don't care if they never win, if he's bad. It's not like you can trade him. So just keep him, play him, hope you get something out of him. And hopefully these young kids can make up for it.
The one thing that I'm a little hesitant about if I'm a Sixers fan is that Embiid did not look like he wanted to be anywhere near the paint last night. Now, maybe that's the minutes restriction. Maybe that's just working himself back into shape. But ultimately, Joel Embiid, as much as the jumper is good in spurts, as much as, he is a dynamic offensive player when he's at his best, that guy's game is built around dominating the rim, around being an elite shot blocker, and around getting a ton of layups and free throws and just generally owning the paint. And if he's not going to be in the paint, that's going to be really hard for him, I think. The one thing that I, as a Celtics fan, have always said when they're playing the Sixers in the playoffs or something like that is, if Embiid is taking jumpers, I am actually largely fine with that. I know that he can make them, but more often than not, if he's out of the paint, that's a win for other teams. So something to monitor. Let's close up shop here. We're almost done. Let's go outlook for the C's and outlook for the Sixers. We'll go one of each. Or why don't we? Two people per. So why don't we have Daniel and Justin on the C's, and Max, you and I can take the Sixers. What are we seeing as far as outlook for the rest of the year? Justin, you go first, then I'll go, and then Daniel, and then Max.
Okay, so I'm Sixers outlook.
No, your C's
Celtics.
outlook.
C's outlook.
Yeah.
I'm still sticking to around 500, just because this is a really easy schedule, but don't pin your emotions to this team too much for the first month or so, because that's really one of the hardest stretches of the entire schedule. It's going to be probably a sub 500 start to the season, but I think once they get into the meat of it, it's going to balance out.
Daniel, I'll go first with the Sixers, and then we'll swing to Daniel for your Celtics outlook of the remainder of the year. For the Sixers, I was pretty impressed with VJ. I was pretty impressed with Maxey. You still have Jared McCain coming back. I don't know how he's going to look when he does come back. Paul George is wearing some nice fits on the bench. Embiid, I just don't know, man. Based off of last night, it's too early to write him off completely, but it didn't look great. To me, it feels like the Sixers are going to be in the play-in mix. I feel like that's a reasonable projection for them, especially if VJ is going to be this consistently good on a night-to-night basis. I really like Quentin Grimes as well. I still am concerned about this front court. Adem Bona did not inspire a ton of confidence in me last night. Andre Drummond, I just he was unplayable last year, and I don't think he's going to be much better this year. To me, it feels like they don't have the horses to be like a true East contender, but I could see a world where they're making the postseason as a play-in team. Feels like it's better than it was as far as the Sixers' outlook for this year. So I could see them having some fits and starts, but ultimately having a run as a low seed playoff team. Daniel, C's outlook based off of last night.
Yeah, I think it's about growth and growing pains. Jaylen Brown talked about at the end of the game, like they're still getting to know each other. They're still learning. Like this is going to be a process. So got to be a little patient about that, like Justin said. In terms of the growing pains, like we just have to expect that with this team. And I mean, hopefully they'll find like a bit of a diamond in the rough. Like maybe Josh Minot turns out to be some stud. Maybe Hugo Gonzalez like develops even further. It's tough that, I mean, we haven't mentioned them really. It's tough that Baylor Shireman and Jordan Walsh didn't even see the court yesterday. I know it's game one. It's like the debut. It's pretty important, but like this is the weakened injured Celtics team. They still didn't get any minutes. That's a little concerning to see for their development, but maybe that changes. And as far as like record, I still not going to rule out the playoffs or the play-in. We'll see. Kind of have to temper expectations with this beginning, like Justin said. It's a pretty tough schedule. Like they'll probably lose to the Cavs. Knicks, I don't know because they're injured. We'll see. They'll have some tough games here and there, but I'm not going to fully count them out just because they still have Jaylen Brown, they still have Derek White, they still have Pritchard. If they're healthy, they can make some stuff happen. But yeah, maybe still a lower seed in the playoffs, if that.
All right, Max, season outlook for the Sixers, and then we'll wrap this thing up. What do we think?
Yeah, I'm kind of aligned with you. I think play-in is probably, and they could, if you think about it, if they every team says they're going to play fast in the offseason and during training camp and preseason, and let's see it in the games. But they did last night, and they sure have a lot of fast players. But when Paul George comes back, that's going to slow down. And when Embiid's out there, he's not going to be one of the fast ones running. But it doesn't seem to matter if you have two blurs on the court. So maybe they catch lightning in the bottle when McCain comes back, and they just become this awesome offense, and not one of those kind of fake great offense teams that are just running. So, but yeah, I don't see a contention upside really. I don't see a winning a playoff round upside, but I could see them around 45-ish wins and in the play-in.
Yep, sounds about right. I think we're fairly aligned here. So we're going to be seeing a lot of Sixers Celtics basketball potentially in that play-in zone based on the takes spun around here. And who knows, maybe things will get even more interesting as the season goes on. I know they will. Let's close it out per usual with something to remember or something to forget. So Max, how we'll do it is we're going to go around the horn. You'll get last word, but something to remember or something to forget. It could be from today. It could be from this week. It could be from this year. It could be from your entire life. And it can be about the Celtics, the Sixers, basketball, or what you had for breakfast this morning. The floor is open. It's available to any. I'll start with this. I am never going to forget, and I am definitely going to remember, as I mentioned before, Victor Wembanyama's game from last night. Oh my God. I mean, I can't express enough how incredibly crazy it was to watch that performance. Holy smokes. Yeah, that's me. Justin, what do you got?
Well, since I'm going to do a little bit of basketball, a little bit of non-basketball, and cheat a little bit, because that VJ Edgecombe debut, it wasn't just how he was moving so effortlessly. It was what you were talking about, Max, about how unfazed by all of it that he was. Just none of it fazed him at all. Just everything seemed completely normal to him. And I honestly cannot remember ever seeing a rookie play like that way. So I'll be remembering that. Really cool that I got to witness that. Not really cool the final score, but such is life. And then I also need to remember not to do those, how do you call them? Surveys, like customer satisfaction surveys. My gym sent me one. We have Planet Fitness here in Mexico. And I was like, all right, yeah, cool. Little reminder of home. They're a great chain. They're not paying me anything to say that. But I felt bad because that customer service, like satisfaction survey they sent me, I felt like I wanted to do something for them. So I mentioned the fact that it was dustier than usual. And then I went to the gym about an hour later and I saw 6 poor people working for the gym, dusting the whole damn gym.
Oof.
So I'm going to remember, don't fill those out.
Daniel, something to remember, something to forget. What do we got?
I'm going to remember the Hawks being kind of off-season champs in the East, because they kind of got a little abused by the Raptors yesterday. I think they let up like 138 points. And then I'm going to forget the feeling of hope for the Clippers, because what was that, like 40? They were down 40 to the Jazz at half or something. I mean,
Unbelievable.
Just
absolutely
can't get more painful than the aspiration scandal. Injuries to key players already, and then just getting blitzed by the Jazz, who are maybe trying to win this year. I don't know. Tough for Clippers fans out there.
Max, we'll close with you. Something to remember or something to forget. What do you got?
I'm going to go something to remember. Within the last year, for the first time in my life, I'm 40 plus, learned how to shoot basketball the right way. And it's just an incredible thing. I've been shooting and considered myself a shooter my whole life because I'm short. And, I wasn't much of a maker. And I got back into my men's league this year, and I was hitting shots. People were defending me, and and respecting the jumper, and it was just a wonderful feeling. It was something I'd never felt. I'm not good. I want to make sure that people know I'm not bragging. I'm not good. But when I'm alone in the gym and I'm shooting and it goes in, and when it misses and I know why and I can go back and fix it, it's an incredible feeling. I feel like Kevin Durant right now. I'm about to cry and get emotional about my jumper. But I'm going to remember that get behind the ball, get underneath it, and get through it.
I think my approach has always been, if the jumper goes in, then my jumper is fine. And if it doesn't go in, then my jumper is busted. And I'm going to stick with that approach going forward. We'll see where that takes me. Anyway, thanks for listening, all. This has been another episode of Havlicek Stole the Pod. I am your host, Alex Goldberg. Dr. Quinn, where can we find your work?
Well, you've either already found it because you were watching or listening to this, or that whole Celtics wire thing.
And Daniel, where can we find your work?
Yeah, similar to Justin, Celtics wire, also Clutch Points, or just Google my name or look up Daniel D1214 on Twitter. That's where I'll be doing most of my Celtics stuff, in-game reporting, yada yada.
And Max, where can we find your work?
Just NBC Sports Boston, pregame, halftime, postgame live, and Blue Sky, Max. I think it's just Max Lederman. I don't know. I don't think Leon Max Lederman passed away, probably 15 years ago. He won a Nobel Prize, and he was the only result that was coming up when you Google my name. So just minus Leon, and you'll find me.
And you can find my work here, basically. You can follow me on Blue Sky as well if you want. I'm just kind of vibing there. Anyway, another episode of Havlicek Stole the Pod in the books. Thanks for listening. If you're still here, we always appreciate you going all the way to the end. And if you're not, we appreciate you listening just the same. Feel free to like, subscribe, do whatever. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.